Have you ever stood near someone who feels like a storm disguised as a person? They drain your energy without a word, twist your emotions with invisible strings, and leave behind confusion wherever they go. This isn't fantasy. This is the quiet, everyday face of evil, not the kind that wears horns or cloaks, but the kind that smiles, flatters, and whispers its way into your trust. Evil doesn't always shout. Sometimes it charms. It hides in ordinary people, in soft voices, in promises that sound like comfort. But beneath that surface, something cold and calculating waits. The good news? Once you learn to recognize it, you take back your power. Ancient Stoic philosophers, Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus, understood human darkness better than most. They taught that clarity, discipline, and self-mastery are shields against corruption and deceit. In this video, you'll discover 10 unmistakable signs that reveal when you're dealing with a truly evil person. These lessons, rooted in Stoic wisdom, will help you guard your peace and protect your energy. Let's uncover the patterns of darkness and learn how to stay untouchable. Ready? Let's begin. Number 1. Constant manipulation. Seneca once said, "He who has many fears also has many things to manipulate." That wasn't just a poetic warning, it was a psychological truth. Manipulation thrives on fear. And the people who master it, the truly malicious ones, don't build relationships on honesty, they build them on control. I once worked with a colleague I thought I could trust. He praised me publicly, always making sure others saw him as my biggest supporter. But slowly, I began to notice small distortions, minor mistakes turned into major issues. Quiet rumors about my work, whispered just loud enough to travel. When I finally confronted him, he smiled, calm and collected, and said he was only trying to help me improve. That sentence hit like a seed of doubt. Was I actually the problem? I began second-guessing my own abilities, apologizing for things I didn't even do wrong. That's how manipulation works. It doesn't scream, it confuses. It replaces your confidence with dependence. Manipulators feed on your uncertainty. They convince you that you need them, that only they can interpret the world for you. They twist kindness into a weapon, exploiting your empathy until you no longer trust your own judgment. The Stoics remind us, clarity and self-control are the antidotes. A virtuous person will always lead you toward independence, not attachment. Epictetus once said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." So if someone constantly urges you to follow their lead, ignores your boundaries, or tries to make you doubt your mind, step back. You don't have to argue. You don't have to prove anything. Freedom begins the moment you stop playing their game. Number 2. A mask of charm. Epictetus warned that appearances, no matter how dazzling, often hide a darker truth beneath. Have you ever met someone whose charm felt too perfect? Every smile timed just right, every word crafted like poetry. It feels intoxicating at first. They make you feel seen, valued, maybe even special. But if you look closely, you'll notice something. Their charm isn't a reflection of goodness. It's camouflage. Charm, when genuine, connects hearts. But when used by someone with dark intent, it becomes a weapon polished, sharp, and precise. They'll disarm you with attention and praise, making you feel chosen, the perfect friend, the dream partner, the ideal mentor. But once you're under the spell, their true motive surfaces: control, manipulation, advantage. Marcus Aurelius said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." These people's souls are dyed with deceit. They hide selfishness and envy beneath glittering words. I once knew a man who made everyone feel adored. He gave compliments like gifts, laughed at all the right moments, and made every conversation feel intimate. But over time, I realized he wasn't connecting, he was collecting. Every favor, every secret, every weakness became currency to him. When people stopped being useful, he discarded them and mocked them behind their backs. If you ever feel charmed but uneasy, pay attention to that tension inside you. Your intuition is your early warning system. As the Stoics teach, truth never wears a mask. Genuine kindness doesn't need performance. It radiates effortlessly. Step past the glitter. Look for the substance. Authentic goodness doesn't need an audience. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." But for the truly malicious, truth isn't a moral compass, it's an obstacle. They don't just lie by accident. They lie because deception is their language. Their lies are crafted with purpose, to gain power, to avoid responsibility, or to rewrite reality itself. Every false word they speak is a thread in a larger web, one designed to trap others inside their version of the story. I once had a friend who told me she single-handedly led a massive project at work, taking all the credit for its success. She spoke with such conviction that I didn't question it until I saw the emails, the team reports, the truth. When confronted, she didn't flinch. Instead, she blamed the misunderstanding on me. "You must have misread what I said," she claimed. Then she deflected, shifted focus, changed subjects, anything to keep the spotlight off her deceit. That's the signature move of a chronic liar. They make you doubt yourself. They twist your sense of reality until you no longer know what to believe. And once you start doubting your memory, your logic, your intuition, they own you. But truth, as the Stoics remind us, is resilient. It requires no maintenance. Lies, however, are fragile, always cracking under pressure, always demanding new ones to stay alive. So, watch carefully. Do their stories change when questioned? Do their actions contradict their promises? Epictetus advised us to focus on deeds, not declarations, because actions, not words, reveal the core of character. If someone's words shimmer but their behavior stumbles in shadow, trust your eyes over your ears. Set boundaries. Don't chase their confessions or try to prove their dishonesty. Simply walk away. For every minute you spend inside their web, you lose a piece of your peace. Honesty is the foundation of freedom, and you can't build peace on poison. Number 4. Lack of empathy. Seneca once said, "We are born for cooperation, like feet, like hands, like eyelids of one mind, one purpose." Empathy is what binds us. It's the silent bridge that allows one heart to understand another. But when empathy is missing, humanity itself starts to fade. Malicious people see others not as souls, but as tools. They feel no genuine concern for your joy, your pain, or your dreams unless it benefits their own. To them, your emotions are chess pieces to be moved, studied, and sacrificed. Imagine this. You finally open up to a friend about something that's been breaking you inside. You're vulnerable, hoping for comfort. But instead, they smirk and say, "You think that's bad? Let me tell you about my day." The spotlight shifts instantly. Your pain becomes a prop in their monologue. At first, it might feel like indifference, but over time, you'll notice something colder. They simply don't care. Your joy, your sorrow, your victories, none of it reaches them. In some cases, they even take quiet pleasure in your suffering. This absence of empathy isn't a flaw, it's a strategy, because empathy connects people, and connection limits control. The less they feel for others, the freer they are to manipulate without remorse. Marcus Aurelius reminded us, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be." Be one. So, when you meet someone who consistently ignores your feelings, belittles your struggles, or dismisses your emotions as weakness, step away. That's not strength, that's corrosion. True connection uplifts. It celebrates joy and softens pain. Without empathy, every relationship becomes a transaction, and every moment together drains instead of nourishes. Protect your peace. Choose those who listen not just to reply, but to understand, because the ones who feel with you will never use you. Before we move on, take a breath. Notice the pattern forming here: manipulation, charm, lies, and coldness. Each one alone might seem harmless, but together they form a system of control. The Stoics never denied the existence of evil. They simply refused to let it define their peace. And that's the wisdom you're learning now: awareness as armor. In the next part, we'll uncover the next 3 signs: the hunger for control, the blame game, and the disturbing pleasure some people take in others' pain. It's where the mask fully slips and clarity becomes your greatest defense. Number 5. The hunger for control. For truly malicious individuals, control isn't just a preference, it's oxygen. They can't breathe without it. Every relationship, every conversation, every moment becomes an opportunity to dominate. Marcus Aurelius wrote that your mind is under your control, not external circumstances. But this truth terrifies toxic people, because if you master your own mind, they lose their power over you, and that's the last thing they want. I once trusted someone who seemed genuinely wise. Their advice felt supportive, even caring. But slowly, their words began to shape my choices: what I should do, who I should trust, even what I should believe about myself. When I considered joining an important project, they smiled softly and said, "Maybe it's too ambitious for you. Let me handle it instead." Their concern felt real, but it was a trap. Every time I deferred to them, I lost a little more confidence in my own judgment. That's how control grows, not through force, but through subtle erosion. They don't shout commands, they whisper doubts. These people want to be the architect of your mind, brick by brick, until you can't distinguish your voice from theirs. They wrap their dominance in the language of love or mentorship. But what they're really doing is building a cage, one they can lock whenever they please. Epictetus warned that freedom is the only worthy goal in life, and freedom begins where control ends. When someone insists you can't do something without them, question it. When someone guides you by shrinking your confidence, recognize it for what it is: manipulation disguised as care. You owe no one your autonomy. True friends, true mentors, true partners, they don't want to control your growth, they want to witness it. Marcus Aurelius reminded us that the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. Guard your mind fiercely, because the moment you let someone else design your reality, you surrender the very thing that makes you free. Number 6. Blame games and deflection. Seneca once observed that people prefer to trust appearances rather than examine truth, and that's exactly what manipulators rely on. When faced with failure, they never admit fault. Instead, they rewrite the script. They are the eternal victims, surrounded by villains conveniently disguised as everyone else. You've probably met someone like this. Every time something goes wrong, it's always someone else's fault. If they miss a deadline, it's because you didn't remind them. If they hurt someone, it's because the other person was too sensitive. They wield guilt like a sword and deflection like a shield. I once worked on a project with a close friend, smart, creative, ambitious. But when the project began to crumble, she turned her frustration on me. In meetings, she made subtle comments questioning my organization, my communication, my competence. All spoken gently, framed as constructive feedback. But the message was clear. It's your fault, not mine. After enough repetition, I started believing it. That's the insidious brilliance of blame games. They make you carry the weight of someone else's mistakes. They turn accountability into confusion. Marcus Aurelius said, "If someone can prove me wrong and show me my mistake, I will gladly change, for I seek the truth." That's the Stoic way to seek correction, not excuses. Evil people do the opposite. They build illusions so they never have to look inward. When you face such behavior, remain calm. Don't mirror their chaos or try to win their games. Simply step outside the story they're spinning and stand on solid ground. Facts, clarity, truth. The truth doesn't need a defense, it stands by itself. And when someone refuses accountability again and again, that's not ignorance, that's character. Protect your peace by recognizing when someone's apology is only a disguise for accusation, because every time you absorb their blame, you let them rewrite reality. Number 7. The pleasure of pain. There's something haunting about people who find joy in the suffering of others. Epictetus advised us to associate with those who make you better. But the opposite kind of person seeks not to uplift you, but to break you slowly, subtly, with a smile. For them, pain is entertainment. It begins with jokes at your expense, small, cutting remarks disguised as humor. It escalates to quiet satisfaction when you fail, to hidden delight when you're struggling. They'll act sympathetic, but watch their eyes, cruelty leaves fingerprints in the gaze. I once knew someone who laughed when a coworker was publicly humiliated by a boss. Her laughter wasn't nervous, it was amused, almost pleased. At first, I thought it was insensitivity, but over time, I saw a pattern. Every time someone else stumbled, she glowed a little brighter. Seneca once said, "No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity." But for these people, adversity isn't something to learn from, it's something to inflict. They feed on weakness because it reminds them they still have power. They gossip, sabotage, or stir conflict not out of necessity, but for the dark thrill of it. Their joy is hollow, their superiority fragile. They need others to fall so they can feel tall. Stoicism teaches us that true happiness is independent. It doesn't rely on comparison or cruelty. So, when you spot this kind of darkness, don't try to fix it. You can't reason with someone who takes pleasure in pain. Just step away. Your peace is sacred ground. Don't let anyone plant poison there. These 3 signs, control, deflection, and delight in suffering, mark the deeper descent of malicious behavior. This is where evil stops pretending to be virtue and shows its face. Number 8. Isolation as a weapon. Marcus Aurelius said that human beings are born to cooperate. Connection is natural to us. It keeps us sane, strong, and whole. But for those who thrive on control, your connection to others is a threat. So, they isolate you, slowly, quietly. At first, it looks like care. They say things like, "Your best friend doesn't really understand you," or "Your family doesn't appreciate how unique you are." I do. It sounds loving, even protective. But what they're really doing is pulling the walls closer, brick by invisible brick. I once had a friend who did this masterfully. She'd plant small seeds of doubt about everyone. I trusted my colleagues, my old friends, even my family." Her tone was soft, never aggressive, which made it harder to recognize as manipulation. But slowly, I noticed the pattern. Each conversation ended with me feeling more alone and more dependent on her. That's the trick. They isolate you not through force, but through emotional engineering. They convince you that only they truly understand you, and the moment you believe that, they own you. The Stoics warn us against this kind of dependence. Seneca wrote that true friendship strengthens your independence. It doesn't erase it. Healthy connections empower you to grow, to think freely, to be more yourself. Isolation does the opposite. It makes you smaller. If you ever find yourself drifting away from the people who once anchored you, pause. Ask yourself, who benefits from my loneliness? Reach back out to the ones who genuinely care. Because authentic connection is one of the strongest shields against manipulation. The moment you rebuild your circle, their power over you vanishes. Number 9. Jealousy in disguise. Envy wears many masks, but the most dangerous one is concern. Seneca called envy the ulcer of the soul, a slow, internal decay that consumes everything it touches. You've probably met someone who praises you with a twist. They compliment you, but there's a small sting at the end. That's impressive, they say, but don't get too comfortable. Someone else is already doing better. They pretend to guide you, but their advice carries a strange bitterness, as if your success personally offends them. I once had a friend like that. After a major achievement, she smiled and said, "You did great, but maybe next time you could push yourself even harder." It sounded encouraging, but the tone, the faint shadow in her eyes told another story. It wasn't advice. It was a subtle attempt to pull me back down to her level. Envy can't celebrate light. It flinches from it. So instead of applauding your success, jealous people chip at it with disguised criticism, faint praise, or constant comparisons. Their goal isn't to destroy you outright. It's to make you doubt yourself, to dull your shine until they feel comfortable again. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The happiness of those who envy you does not depend on you," and that's crucial to remember. Their bitterness isn't your burden. You don't have to shrink yourself to soothe someone else's insecurity. A genuine friend celebrates your victories without competition. They see your success as proof that good things are possible. So when someone can't clap for you, listen to the silence. It tells you everything. Number 10. The unrepentant heart. Perhaps the clearest sign of a truly evil person is an unrepentant heart. No matter how much damage they cause, they never look back, never apologize, never reflect. They see remorse as weakness and accountability as surrender. Marcus Aurelius wrote that we should not waste time arguing about what a good man should be. We should be one. But these individuals do the opposite. They argue endlessly, justify endlessly, and change nothing. You've probably met someone like this, the kind of person who always has an excuse ready. When they hurt someone, they say, "You misunderstood." When they betray you, they say, "You're overreacting." They twist their wrongdoing into your fault and then accuse you of being dramatic for noticing. I once confronted someone about a lie that deeply affected others. Instead of admitting it, she smiled calmly and said, "We all have different versions of the truth." That sentence stuck with me, a perfect summary of moral emptiness. An unrepentant heart isn't just stubborn, it's hollow. Because without reflection, there's no growth. Without growth, there's only repetition, the same harm, the same excuses, forever looping. Stoicism teaches that admitting fault isn't humiliation, it's purification. It's how we refine the soul, turning ignorance into wisdom. Those who refuse to do that are trapped in perpetual darkness. So, if you're close to someone who never apologizes, who always shifts blame, who sees kindness as weakness, step back. Not everyone deserves access to your forgiveness. Protect your peace by investing in people who are willing to grow, to change, to face themselves honestly. Marcus Aurelius said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." Surround yourself with those whose colors make your world brighter, not darker. With these final 3 signs, you now see the full anatomy of malice: control, deception, coldness, envy, isolation, and the complete absence of remorse. It's not about fearing these people, it's about understanding them, because once you can see their patterns, you can never be trapped by them again. In the final part, we'll close this journey with a Stoic reflection: how to turn awareness into power, and how to protect your mind and soul in a world where darkness often hides behind a smile. Evil rarely announces itself. It doesn't arrive with horns, shadows, or grand speeches. It enters quietly as charm, as guidance, as love. And by the time you notice its shape, it's already woven into your thoughts. But awareness changes everything, because the moment you see, the spell breaks. These 10 signs aren't just warnings, they're tools. They remind you that darkness can't exist without permission. Manipulation, deceit, envy, control, all of it feeds on your inattention. Once you learn to recognize the pattern, you reclaim your power. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor, once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. That's not just ancient wisdom, it's survival in modern disguise. When you know your values, when you control your reactions, when you stop feeding every emotional trap that evil people set, they lose access to you. They can't manipulate a mind that is anchored in reason. They can't break a soul that knows its own worth. Seneca taught that calm judgment is stronger than fury, and Epictetus reminded us that the only true prison is the one we build within our thoughts. That's why awareness is liberation, because evil thrives on confusion but dies in clarity. Think of your peace as sacred territory. Not everyone deserves entry. Your empathy, your forgiveness, your loyalty, these are treasures, not debts. Give them to those who earn them, not to those who exploit them. When you recognize manipulation, don't argue with it, step away. When someone uses charm to deceive, don't. Question your worth, see their emptiness. When lies spread, stand with truth. When empathy disappears, don't lose yours, just redirect it toward those who value it. The Stoics didn't believe in avoiding evil by retreating from the world. They believed in confronting it with reason, virtue, and grace. They understood that the battlefield isn't outside, it's inside the mind. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Even the encounter with evil, then, becomes a teacher, showing you what to guard, what to strengthen, and what never to become. You might wonder, why does evil exist at all? The Stoics would say it exists to test our mastery, to reveal whether our principles are theory or truth. Because goodness that's never challenged isn't strength, it's innocence. But goodness that survives darkness, that's wisdom. So when you cross paths with manipulation, deceit, or cruelty, don't sink into fear. See it for what it is, a mirror reflecting the opposite of who you choose to be. Every cruel word, every lie, every act of control, it all becomes evidence of what you'll never allow yourself to mirror. The presence of evil doesn't corrupt you unless you invite it in. Recognize it, name it, and walk past it untouched. Let this be your reminder. You don't need to fight every shadow. You only need to keep your light steady. Be calm, not cold. Be firm, not harsh. Be kind, but never naive. The Stoics didn't preach detachment out of indifference, they taught it as protection, because once your peace becomes your priority, chaos loses its grip. So stay centered. Let your thoughts be guided by truth, your actions by virtue, and your spirit by clarity. The world will always contain darkness, but your mind doesn't have to. Evil people crave reaction. Give them silence. They crave power. Give them none. They crave attention. Give them indifference. Because in the end, evil isn't defeated by confrontation, it starves from neglect. You win the moment you refuse to play. If you've walked this journey to the end, remember this: awareness is freedom, and freedom is peace. Guard your mind like a temple. Guard your soul like fire. Because no matter how dark the world becomes, your light, your clarity, your virtue, your discipline will always be the one thing evil cannot touch. Final reflection. When you learn to see clearly, you no longer live in fear of darkness. You understand it. And once you understand it, it can never rule you again. Stay wise, stay calm, stay free.